うかした？
いえ、なんでも。
辛そうな顔してる。
え？
いいんだよ。よしよし。
なんだこの感じ。懐かしいような、安心するような。
What an absolutely goated episode of Alya-san. This episode literally, like, all my predictions came true. So it, like, literally solidified and, like, actually put it on paper kind of thing. Like, all the predictions I thought. First and foremost, going into this episode, I was already excited. There's a few episodes I'm watching today, you know, kind of like the second, third episodes of the week, you know, this season or whatever. This was the first one that I had to watch today because, like, I am so excited to see the next episode of Alya-san, or Aaliyah-san, however you say her name. And after after we got the feat, after we got last week, I'm like, okay, yeah, this is the stuff. And some of my predictions were the Russian community in Japan is actually a lot bigger than we think. The Russian community, actually in general, in Japan and in Korea, are pretty big. Now, when I say big, I don't mean like, you know, like crazy numbers. But if you were to compare it to other foreigners, you know, in Japan, it's a pretty large community. But with that same idea in sense, it's like, well, how many Russian, you know, folks could really be there in close proximity to Masachika? And my initial prediction was, I bet that's Aliyah's sister. And that prediction, +1 for me, and I'm sure +1 for you too. That prediction came through, or came true, and it was definitely her sister. And, you know, at first you're kind of thinking like, okay, well, maybe her sister, you know, kind of forgot about him, or that was just her little friend when she was young, you know, like all these things that happen, you know, just naturally over time. It's like, at the end of the day, like, I remember the girl that I played with when I was like in second grade and first grade and third grade. You know, I even remember like my first little girlfriend or whatever. Like, but when I say remember, like, I vaguely remember. Like, I don't even remember, like, I think maybe out of like the 3 that I played with when I was like a kid, I remember, I think I remember one person's name. Outside of that, though, it's like I would have to go dig up some old yearbook to even remember. So that's just what happens over time. It's like you just end up forgetting these things. And even if somebody was really important to you when you were, you know, 10, 8, 12, whatever, it's like it just kind of, if the proximity to them and, you know, just kind of dissipates, it dissipates over time. So I didn't really know on, you know, what was going to happen. But the opposite of what I thought was kind of true. And if we find out that Masha, which is Aliyah's sister, actually carries a pendant with our boy's picture in it still. So he's extremely relevant into her mind. And those two were really close. I mean, Masachika learned Russian for her. And that whole thing of him learning Russian, it's going to explode in his face, because even Masha, like the first time that she kind of recognized him, she spoke a little Russian. And he's like, oh, I'm sorry, what did you say? So she immediately knows, like he may not be like an expert level, but she knows his level of like when she left. So like she's gonna like just throw a wrench in all of this. But she noticed who he was like out the gate. I'm surprised he didn't notice who she was, you know, kind of like out the gate. But later on in the episode, when they're, you know, getting tea and stuff, we're having a flashback, and I'll talk about that in a second, because that was my second prediction this show so far. But he's having like some, you know, flashback. He's having some inner turmoil, and Masha notices that, and she goes to like hug him, comfort him, you know, and very similar things that she did when they were kids. And he's like, wow, this feeling feels so nostalgic, and I feel comforted and like relaxed, and it feels normal. Like this feels like home, you know. And I was like, oh man, that's not good for our girl Aliyah, you know what I mean? Like, that's not good at all, because Masha, obviously, she definitely, you could tell she exudes that kind of like, how do you say it, like motherly type feelings. And like as a man, like there's just, I don't think anything gets better than those kinds of emotions. You know what I mean? So she has something that like it would be extremely appealing to Masachika. So, anyways, that prediction on the table. The next one is, was outside of Aliyah and Masachika just kind of sitting next to each other and getting closer that way. One of the things I think we talked about, maybe I think it was last week, maybe it was in episode 1, was there must have been some kind of event or something that happened that made them, be friends and get closer. And that prediction came true as well. This one, we got a really cool backstory. Aliyah ran us through as she was talking to her sister about, her, as she was a kid, she was always like an overachiever, a loner. She doesn't really see the value in people. She just kind of she wants to put the effort in and just expects people to match her energy. And the reality is that doesn't happen in real life. Like, you might take something extremely seriously, but then the next person, they're like, I don't care about that at all. It's just human nature, then people's interest levels and things like that. So because that's her personality, she took that into high school. And it took Masachika to kind of bring her back and humanize her again, of like, you're making yourself to be this like loner, nobody puts effort, but you're putting the effort into the wrong thing. You need to put effort into the people, because this is a project about the people together, not about what one single person can do. And he kind of brought her back down to earth. And, that through a bunch of different events that happened, they got closer. And, as a forgiveness, he got the favor to call her Aliyah. A very Russian thing, that she never questioned, like, why does he know about this Russian rhetoric kind of thing? And they danced together, and that's basically she fell for him. There's not really another way to put it. Even her sister called her out on it. Like, she was like, no, we're just friends, like whatever. But even her sister was like, oh, so this is how you fell in love, So that's another one. And then the last one was about Yuki and Masachika. And I know a lot of folks in the comment were a little confused by it, but my initial prediction was like, oh, I bet their parents divorced or separated or something. And I bet they're still in close proximity, but they don't live together anymore. And that's exactly the same case. It looks like dad, either he was the deliverer of the news or whatever, but it looks like dad and mom separated. They got a divorce, and Masachika went with dad, took his given name. Yuki went with mom, took her given name, which is weird about the name stuff. Like, if, God forbid, like if I were to get divorced with my wife, like that will never happen. Me, I gotta die first. But let's just say it would happen. Like, my kids would just carry my name. That's not something that would happen. It's like your name changing. But they must have made that conscious choice, or their parents must have made the conscious choice. More than likely, he already had his dad's name. Yuki probably made a decision to take her mom's name, or the mom made that decision for her because, people do that, So, but that answers that question, that they live separately due to divorce. And it looks like they separated pretty early on, somewhere in the ballpark of probably 6 to 10 years old, 6 to 11 years old. Obviously, it looks like they're in the same grade, Again, I have a theory that, Masachika came first, Yuki came second, but they're probably, 10, 11 months of each other, within a year. So he turns 14, she's 13. She turns 14, he turns 15. So they probably have a little overlap to where like they're the same age for like a month or two or something like that. At least that's my guess. But they made that decision. That answers another question there. So episode 3 was just goated. It answered all the lingering questions I have, and that's what a really great anime can do, is it can hold your interest, entertain you, and pique your curiosity, but then without you needing to wait forever or never, it actually answers those questions that you have pretty quickly. And this kind of put all those different little puzzle pieces into place, but said, hey, there's a bigger puzzle out there, but what we've presented, the pieces we presented with you, they fit. And that's exactly what you need to happen. So love this episode, this anime. I think this is the best new anime of the season. And I kind of find it pretty hard to, as I look through the list of all the other anime that are this season, and again, not counting returning anime like but like Oshinoko or Slime anime. But if I look through like all the other new anime, you know, Wistoria, Dahlia and Bloom, Osan, Nobody's Way Up, 2.5 seduction, seduction, which is a really good one so far. Parry Everything, Days with My Stepsister, which is also really good. We're gonna cover that today as well, or tomorrow, I think. The Twins anime, like if I just look at all like the new stuff this season so far, like I think this is probably this is probably like a 9, and some of the other ones are like, you know, an 8-ish, you know. So anyways, those are my thoughts. Let me know yours in the comments below, my friends. Have a good rest of your week, and I'll see you on episode number 4, and I'll see you in the comments. Peace.